Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatley Tones Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video and I hope you're all doing well. Firstly, let me apologise for the state of my voice. I've picked up a bit of a cold and a sore throat, but it's fine. We'll still struggle through this little. It won't be much of a struggle really because it's not going to be very long. But it's all fine. But I've been away for a few days. I've been to Liverpool, and that is why there hasn't been any videos on the channel for the last few days, the last week I think. There hasn't been any videos on the channel, so apologies for that. However, if everything goes to plan, there will be, including this one, 4 more videos I think before Christmas. So I've got a lot of work to do. But there will be, I think, 4 videos before Christmas, so please stay tuned to that. So yeah, I've been to Liverpool. I have had an absolutely belting few days in Liverpool, meeting Beatles fans from every corner of the globe. People coming over to England to see. Did I say? I said every. Why do people say every corner of the globe? The thing's round, isn't it? It's round. It's round. Every curve of the globe. 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 So every curve of the globe. People from all over the world have been flocking to England to come and see Paul McCartney in Manchester and London. And I sort of, me and Mrs. Beatley Tone, we popped up to Liverpool. Well, it wasn't really popping really because it's 4 hours away in the car, but we popped up to Liverpool to meet them. Now who those people are will be revealed in the next video, because the next video will be sort of documenting the trip in Liverpool and the bad behaviour that went on. But I had an absolutely fantastic time, and you know, some of the people you'll know, some of them you won't know, but they're all part of this channel. And you know, they went to Manchester and they'll be coming down to London this week to see Paul. Anyway, singing as well. That's another reason why my voice is that. Well, not so much singing, more shouting really. It's probably more shouting at the top of my voice. But yeah, that could be the reason for the throat as well. But I did have an absolutely belting time. But more of that in the next video. It should be a fun one, so stay tuned for that. Before I get on to other things, just wanted to thank all the new subscribers who have subscribed to the channel recently. There's been quite a few of you. Thank you so much for becoming part of this channel. Really appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoy the content here. Okay, now on to the subject matter of the video. I want to talk to you about this absolute beauty, the McCartney Legacy Volume 2, 1974 to 1980, written by Allan, Kozinn and Adrian Sinclair. If you've got this one, Volume 1, you'll be no stranger to what to expect in this volume. But if you're not, then we're going to have a look at this book. Obviously, I'm not going to review the book because I haven't started it yet, and look how thick it is. It's going to take me a few months to get through that. But we're just gonna have a look at it and talk about what might be in it, what might not be in it, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, let's take a look at the book. That is the front cover. That is the spine, and on the back there are some sort of very brief kind of reviews of McCartney Legacy. Got some big names here: Peter Jackson, Mark Lewison, New York Times, Mail on Sunday, and that sort of thing. I'll just read you what Peter. Should we just hear what Peter Jackson said? He said, "This is talking about McCartney Legacy Volume 1." I read the McCartney Legacy and it made me go back to the albums, hear some of those songs again because of the way that you described them. I probably hadn't listened to some for 25 to 30 years, and you tell the story behind them. It's inspired me to reconnect with some of those songs and I'm really pleased that I did. High praise from Peter Jackson. Mark Lewison is also here, talking about that as well, and it's quite appropriate because I think that the writing of Allan Kozinn and Adrian Sinclair is probably the most Lewison-esque, I suppose, as far as books about the Beatles goes. They go into the same same kind of detail, but not with Mark Lewison. If you want to know what colour socks George was wearing on the 10th of November 1960, Lewison is your man. There's none of that sort of stuff that you don't need to know in this book, but the detail of the stuff that you do need to know is all here. The research is absolutely impeccable. The writing is absolutely brilliant as well. From what I can gather, and I stand to be corrected here, I'm sure somebody will tell me, from what I've heard and interviews that I've seen them do, it seems that Allan Kozinn does most of the writing, Adrian Sinclair does most of the research, and maybe there's some crossover there as well. I'm not sure, but that's how it kind of appears to me. Both gentlemen do an absolutely brilliant job. Well, they did an absolutely brilliant job on this book, and I don't expect the new one to be any different. It should be fantastic. The cover photo there of Paul on the dust jacket. The dust jacket is removable. We'll leave it off now. But the cover photo of Paul there, I think, is taken from one of the dates on the 1979 UK tour, because that's what he wore. That is the Yamaha bass that he played on that tour. I went to 4 dates on that tour, including the concert for Kampuchea, so I'm fairly confident that is where that photo comes from. And I can't wait to read about that UK tour because because I attended it. So it's a double-edged sword, really, because obviously the book goes from 1974 to 1980. So when I get to the 1979 tour, I'm going to be near the end, and that's going to be a little bit. That's going to cut a little bit, I think. But I can't wait to get into it. Now, let me talk about the writing style of Allan Kozinn and Adrian Sinclair. Now, we've had lots of books that deal with, lots of books more recently that deal with the songs and the albums and stuff like that. Books like Luca Parese's book, Music is Ideas, which goes into goes into depth about the songs, but doesn't really talk about Paul's, what's going on in Paul's life, around the time. Doesn't talk too much about what was going on in the in the sessions in great detail, and what was going on with Paul in between making albums. Doesn't really do that. And we have other books, biographies of Paul that that talk about his life, but kind of skimp over the music. The McCartney Legacy covers both in great detail, and as I say, I don't think they wasted a word in Volume 1. I can't say that there was anything that I read in Volume 1 that I thought I didn't need to know that. It doesn't happen. Everything that is spoken about is a nugget. It's taken these guys 10 years to write these two volumes, and for that, as fans, we should be eternally grateful, because the information that they have given us is absolutely invaluable. Something else about the writing style of this book is that Kozinn and Sinclair, they write without without foresight or without foreknowledge, if you know what I mean. So kind of when they're telling a story, it's almost it's like it's in the present day. They're talking about an event or a recording session or something, as it happens on the day, without ever referring to the knowledge that they now have of what happened to that later. An example of that in the book, you will read the story of the last time that John and Paul met, but it won't say in the book. It won't reference the fact that this was the last ever meeting between John and Paul, because they're writing in the present day without that foresight, that foreknowledge that they've got that happened. And talking of that, you probably want to know, it's 1974 to 1980. This book doesn't go up to John's death. This starts in 1974 with the recording of the McGear album, which is kind of a bit of a Lost Wings album, if you like. It's Wings playing on it, but obviously Mike McCartney is singing on it, and it goes up until to the drug bust in 1980, January 1980. So that's where the book goes. So obviously, if you're writing in the current, without that foresight, then you don't know at this stage in this volume of the book that it was to be the last meeting of John and Paul. So that's kind of what I mean, and that's an interesting writing style, and a very good one, I think, because it puts you in that moment. That's how the two books sort of look together, looking good. That's them from the side. So for people that like to know this sort of information, McCartney Legacy Volume 2 is 48 pages longer than Volume 1, 759 pages in Volume 2, 711 in Volume 1, and this includes all the acknowledgements and stuff at the back. There is quite a few. There are acknowledgements, bibliography, photo credits, selected discography, selected videography, concert tours, and notes. They make up the numbers at the back of the book. Now, if I just I'll show you. If people like to see what the typeface is like, and so I'll try and get you a close up of that. That is how it looks, and that is how they they lay out recording session information, and you can pause that and enlarge it if you want to read it, but I'll read it to you. So this particular page 223, page 2023, Tuesday March the 11th to Saturday March the 5th 1975. This is recording sessions at the Wally Hyder Recording Studio number 3 in LA. Overdubbing Treat Her Gently, Lonely Old People, and Venus and Mars reprise, and mixing. Listen to what the man said. That's what they did, and then it tells you a little bit about it, and then they go on and talk about that particular session. So what is this book going to cover? Well, obviously it's going to start in 1974, so there's still going to be some hangover from Band on the Run. I would have thought they'll be talking about how Band on the Run went during 1974, which was obviously the main year really for Band on the Run, because it came out right at the end of 1973. So we're hearing about how that did in 1974, the recording of the McGear album, the recruitment of Jimmy McCulloch and Jeff Britton. Adrian Sinclair managed to make contact with Jeff Britton, and he spoke at length for this book, and it was discovered that Jeff Britton kept a diary throughout his time in Wings, which has obviously been a great resource for this book. Funny enough, Steve Holley, the final drummer in Wings, who also features in the book, also kept a diary, which totally throws out that window. Throws out the window that drummers are completely disorganised. They're obviously really organised because they kept diaries. But then I'm going to contradict that by saying apparently Steve Holley actually lost his diaries a few years ago. So he obviously telling these stories off the top of his head. But yeah, we're going to go One Hand Clapping. That's going to be covered, an album that we can't become very familiar with this year. They go off to Nashville. They record Junior's Farm and Sally G and some other stuff. The departure of Jeff Britton will obviously be covered. The recruitment of Joe English, the recording for Venus and Mars and Speed of Sound, and the world tour, the UK leg, the Australian leg, the American leg. It's all going to be here. It's going to be fantastic. This is Wings at their absolute peak. Really interested to hear some stories about that world tour. This is Wings at their absolute peak, and firing on all cylinders. So that is going to be fascinating. We're going to hear about the Mull of Kintyre and Girls' School, and the London Town sessions, the departure of Jimmy McCulloch and Joe English during the London Town sessions, moving on to Good Night Tonight and Daytime Suffering, the recruitment of Lawrence Juba and Steve Holley, recording of Back to the Egg, the 1979 UK tour that they did in support of Back to the Egg. I expect that some of McCartney 2 was also recorded during 1979, and sort of ending up with the drugs bust in Japan. We're all going to find out about not just the sessions for those albums, but also the sessions for the tracks that didn't make all of those albums. That will be covered in the book, I suspect, as it was in volume 1. So who did they speak to get all this information? Well, lots and lots of people, but I'm obviously not going to go through them all, but I'll just talk about some of the big hitters in this. You've got as I've already said, Jeff Britton, Steve Holley, Lawrence Juba, Howie Casey, Tony Dorsey is on this, and amazingly, they got to speak to Joe English. Now, Joe is not a working musician anymore, hasn't been for decades, and he doesn't talk to the media. He doesn't talk to the media retrospectively about his time in Wings. He never really has. Obviously, when he was in Wings, he did media work, but not since his departure. So we never really found out the real reason behind Joe English's departure. I'm sure that is going to be covered in this book. But the fact that they got Joe English to speak on this book is a real coup. You won't find any other interviews with Joe English post his time in Wings talking about the Wings era. I don't think so. That is a real coup. So well done, Allan and Adrian. That is a brilliant addition to this book. You're also going to get some interaction with the Beatles in this book, the other Beatles, meetings between any of the former Beatles. You'll probably get the story of Paul going in disguise to one of George's shows on his 1974 Dark Horse tour. That I'm sure that'll be covered. But any meeting between John and Paul, or Paul and George, or Paul and Ringo, and that sort of thing will be covered. There's also going to be some information, I think, about that sort of exploitation of the Beatles' back catalogue in the 70s, rock and roll music, love songs, that sort of stuff. Maybe there'll be information about how they tried to stop the Star Club Hamburg tapes coming out. Maybe that will be covered in the book. I know Paul was very anti all these sort of these shows, theatre shows, where they would use Beatles music, Beatles actors being Beatle lookalikes. Paul hated all that sort of stuff and tried to put a stop to all that. So there's going to be tons of interesting stuff. Obviously, the meeting of John and Paul in LA in 1974 that sort of produced that sort of Toot and a Snore bootleg that session there with John and Paul and Stevie Wonder and all that sort of thing. It is going to be a ride. It's going to be a long ride, but it's going to be a fantastic ride. Now, one major player that I haven't really talked about too much is the incredibly talented Jimmy McCulloch. Obviously, getting the backstory of Jimmy's time in Wings has been much more of a challenge, for Allan and Adrian. I mean, obviously, Jimmy passed away in I think 1978, and he was so important to this band. He is the player that really took Wings in a more sort of maybe rockier direction. Really important to the band. Very, very sad story. It's such a tragic loss that he died so young. Such a talent. But his story is kind of told by other members of the band, people who were in the band at the same time as Jimmy, like Tony Dorsey and Howard Casey, and maybe Joe English as well. I think they may have spoken to his brother as well. But obviously that has been much more of a challenge. But also Jimmy's story is also told through Adrian Sinclair said through some rare interviews that Paul did around the time of when he was in the band, and also around the time that he died as well. And Adrian Sinclair says these are quite rare interviews that a lot of people won't have seen before. So that is really interesting. So we hope that Jimmy gets a fair hearing in the book, because I'm sure he will. Because he's really important. A lot of people ask if there are pictures in the book. There are, but they're fairly, they're all black and white. They're fairly low quality as well. When you publish a book, you have to make a decision about photos, because if you want glossy colour photos in a book, it's going to put the price of the book right up, puts the production costs right up. So Adrian and Allan will have had to make a call and say, like they did for McCartney 1, they've included some black and white photos, not fantastic quality, but it doesn't really matter. It just adds a little bit of context to the actual text. So they're kind of, as you go through the book, they're time period sensitive. There is also, I'll just show you the dedication here. It is there. And if you couldn't read that, it says for Linda, Henry, Jimmy and Denny. Absolute class from Kozinn and Sinclair to include that. Very, very nice indeed. Okay, so I'm not going to talk any more about the contents of the book, but if you want to know more about what is in the book, let me point you in the direction of my good friends Andy and Tom at the Two Legs Paul McCartney podcast on the 10th of December. They did a live launch of this book with Adrian and Allan as well, are interviewing them, and also Adrian and Allan answering questions from the audience, the subscribers of the Two Legs podcast. So if you want to go over there will be a link down in the description to the Two Legs video of the live book launch of McCartney Legacy 2. I urge you to go and watch it. And if you're not subscribed to Two Legs, give yourself a little kick up the arse and get yourself over there and make sure you subscribe to the Two Legs podcast. It is the best Paul McCartney podcast on YouTube. Right, now let me just talk very briefly about the situation with the McCartney Legacy. Now, when the original contract with Allan and Adrian's publishers started, it was just for the first two volumes, so the contract has now expired. They've delivered those two contracts, so they're now in the process of negotiating a contract for the the remainder of this series, and we very much want McCartney Legacy Volume 3, 4 and possibly 5. So it's really important that we support Allan and Adrian, on this project, because this is, invaluable information. This is the McCartney Bible, and meticulously researched and brilliantly written. So it's really important that we support this, Allan and Adrian, by buying a copy of this book. So if I'm asking you to buy a copy of this book, you want to know how much it costs. Well, I'm not going to bother putting any links, to go and buy it, because everyone's got their favourite place. You're all over the world. I can't put every link, so you know where to go to buy a book, right? But I'll just tell you, in the UK, I bought mine from Amazon. I pre-ordered it when it was first announced. It was released on the 10th of December. Amazon, true to form, delivered it on the 14th, but it doesn't matter. It's here now, and I can't wait to get started. So if you want to buy the McCartney Legacy Volume 2 from Amazon in the UK, the recommended price is £30. They've currently got a deal. You can buy it right now for £25, so £5 off. There is a Kindle version of the book as well, which is £10 cheaper at £15. There is also an audio book, which I'm also going to be getting as well, because I like an audio book. It helps me read it much quicker if I've got an audio, but I like to listen to it being read to me whilst following the text. That's what I like to do. That's with a book of this magnitude. I'll just tell you, in America, inside the book, the recommended retail price, $35 In Canada, it is 43 Canadian dollars and 50 cents, but I'm sure you can get a deal if you search around. So that is McCartney Legacy Volume 2. If by any chance you don't have McCartney Legacy Volume 1, you really need it. If you're looking to pick up that, Amazon in the UK, £23 for Volume 1, and again £10 cheaper for the Kindle version, £13, and there is an audio book as well. Okay, so go and get it. Obviously, I'm going to go away and read it, and when I've read it, I'll do a full review. But that is not for now. That is for then. See what I did there. Right. So, right. No, that doesn't make sense. Actually, does it? No, it doesn't make sense. Scrap that. Scrap that. I will do a full review once I have read the book. Okay, that is it from me. If you're getting the McCartney Legacy Volume 2, tell me about it. If you've already started reading it, tell me about it down in the comments, what you think of it so far. No spoilers. And thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you all very soon. Bye bye.